Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah, though I'm not considered a believer by some. I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when my feet touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there, because we don't need a kingdom, we only need free air. We don't seek a king, we seek the brotherhood of man, and we won't fight for bondage, as we need no king or woman. We will stand undivided, because we will raise the fallen. Now I need to hear a hallelujah as we tear down the wall there. The divide between heaven and earth, as tears turn to mirth, as we walk through the valley of death, and I draw my last breath. I know rapture I feel when I touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I've reached the hollow where my ancestors roam.
When you raise your right hand and you join the United States military, you swear an oath, not to a president, not to a party, not to a flag even. You swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I know that oath. I lived it. I spent a career in the Navy as an Independent Duty Hospital Corpsman, a doc, a Fleet Marine Force doc. I went to war. I went to war to defend the Constitution of the United States. And I fought for those to the left of me and to the right of me. But my work in keeping everyone safe to the left of me and to the right of me was so that we could defend that Constitution. That's what the work was. Keeping people alive, the responsibility of being the only medical authority in the room, and what the oath meant when it stopped being words on a page. Keep it true, That's the truth. So here's the thing nobody puts on the recruiting poster when you join the military. That oath does not expire. You don't hand it back to your retirement ceremony and hand it back in with your sea bag. You don't do that. I'm a retired sailor, combat sailor, and I'm still bound by, and I still am protected by that same Constitution I swore to defend. I'm telling you this because last time we were here, we left off in a dark place. 6 veterans in Congress reminded our troops that they can refuse illegal orders. The oath basically, and the president called them traitors and said their words were punishable by death. This week, this moment, this is the other half of that story, the hopeful half, because the government didn't stop at words. It actually tried to do something to those people. And what I want to show you today is what stood in the way. It wasn't a protest. It wasn't a hashtag. It was a room full of ordinary citizens and a judge and a couple hundred years of stubborn American machinery doing exactly what it was built to do. This is the episode about when the system holds, when the line holds. Welcome back to the Hillbilly Think Tank with Spencer Keck. I'm the educated hillbilly. And no, that's not an oxymoron, y'all. We've had educated, erudite, emancipated hillbillies in them here hills ever since my kith and kin came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone. So now we're back to the necessity of dissent. Again, I am Spencer Keck, candidate for magistrate on the Hardin County Fiscal Court, District 3. And as you just heard, a retired Navy doc. This whole series is about one idea, that loyal disagreement is the lifeblood of a free country, and that punishing it is the real danger. Episode 1 gave us the toolkit. Episode 2 showed us the threat at full volume. Today, the encouraging part, and I need the encouraging part because I think you do too. When power comes for those 6 veterans, and it came for those 6 veterans, our system had answers. Let me show you 2 of them. Important 2.
Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The first check, this is the one that we've talked about, and we got to remember closely as we go through this whole series. The first check is, are you dissenting because you actually are part of the system? We're not just looking at talking to some curmudgeon who likes to sit outside the house and holler at anybody that walks by. That's what we're not talking about. We're talking about how necessary dissent is and what we need to do to recognize it. So, again, that loyal disagreement, that's the lifeblood of this free country, and we cannot punish it. We have to encourage it. So, let's go back. Let's just review quickly the 7 points that we say we need to recognize if we're going to recognize the difference between the curmudgeon just hollering at passerbys and when folks are really talking about what's wrong with the system they live in. So, 7 points. Number one, and answer number one came from people whose names you will never know. After the president demanded those lawmakers be arrested and tried, the Justice Department went looking for charges. They landed on an old law, and it's on the books as Section 2387. That makes it a crime to try to cause insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty in the military. It carries up to 10 years. And to bring that charge, prosecutors had to do something the Constitution requires. They had to go in front of a grand jury to try and prove that. Now, let me explain what a grand jury actually is, because it's one of the quiet miracles of this country, and almost nobody talks about it. It's not the government. It's a group of regular citizens pulled from the community, like jury duty, and the government cannot bring a serious federal charge against you unless it first convinces those ordinary people that there's enough evidence to proceed. It's right there in the Fifth Amendment. The founders put a wall of citizens between the prosecutor and the accused on purpose, because they had lived under a king who could jail his critics on a whim. And in this case, that wall held. The grand jury looked at what the government brought them. The case against 6 veterans for reminding soldiers, sailors, and Marines and airmen of their oath. And they declined to indict. They said no. Think about that. Not politicians, not generals, citizens. The same kind of people who'd serve on a jury here in Hardin County. They were handed a politically explosive case by the most powerful office on earth. And they looked at it and said, this doesn't fly. That is the system holding. That is your neighbor standing between power and a free citizen, which is the exact job the founders gave them. Again, the founders gave them this power. Not a king, not a queen, not a president. The Constitution was written by those founders who realized we had to be protected by ordinary citizens when tyranny comes looking for other citizens. So, and once that these ordinary citizens looked at these charges brought against American citizens by this administration, they said, nope, it doesn't fly. So, again, that's the system holding. That's our neighbors standing between power and a free citizen. And that's exactly that job the founders gave them when they stood up. Now, the second check was the judge. Answer number 2 came from a federal judge named Richard Leon. And I want to spend real time here because his story is the one that hit me personally. While the criminal case was falling apart, there was a second front. The Secretary of Defense moved to punish Senator Mark Kelly, one of the 6. Now, Kelly is a retired Navy captain, 25 years in uniform, a combat pilot, an astronaut, and the Pentagon went after his retirement, his rank, his pension as punishment for that video. They formally censured him and started proceedings to knock down his retired grade and to cut his pay. So they wanted to cut him from being a captain in retirement and cut his pay in retirement. Now, y'all, This is me talking veteran to veteran now. You know, I am a retired combat vet, a retired sailor also. And I took care of people like Captain Kelly, Senator Kelly. I took care of people from E1 to highest rank in the military, to generals. And, you know, the bullets, they don't care what rank you are. All they need, the person that is wounded wants to make sure that they have someone who actually cares and is proficient in medical care. Well, the same way when it comes to the Constitution can't give you preference whether you're a lowly citizen, a regular Joe like you and me, or a senator. It has to be blind, and justice has to be blind. Well, it also, in this case, they're trying to come after the pension of a combat veteran, someone who went in harm's way, was shot at, retired when his wife was shot when she was in Congress, and she had to retire. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to take care of her, and I'm also going to take up her mantle. And then he ran for office. So this is a family who has paid the price for protecting the Constitution. And they want to try to take away his pension. That's why it hits home with me, veteran to veteran. For those of you who are out there who are veterans or who love someone who is one, this should be something that sticks right between the ears. And let's think about it. Because I earned my pension the same way he earned his. Right? So let's think about that as we hear the rest of the story. So, Captain Senator Kelly sued, and Judge Leon, and this matters, so hear me, Judge Leon was appointed by Republican President George W. Bush. This is not some partisan, he's not a partisan hack. He looked at what the Pentagon was doing and he blocked it. He issued an order stopping them from touching Kelly's rank or pay while the case plays out. And the way he wrote it, 29 pages. I want to read a few of his actual words because they're public record and because they're something. He wrote that the government had trampled on Senator Kelly's First Amendment freedoms and threatened the constitutional liberties of millions of military retirees. Millions of military retirees. That's not an abstract to me. That's me. That's every retired doc, every retired chief, every retired captain, every one of us who took the oath and took off the uniform and still has the right to speak as a free American. When that judge stood up for Mark Kelly's voice, he stood up for mine and maybe for someone you love. And Leon didn't write it dry. When the government argued that a court had no business reviewing this, that the military should get to judge its own, he wasn't having it. He pointed out that no court had ever stripped retired service members of their speech rights like this. And he wrote, "This court will not be the first to do so." When the government claimed Kelly was just trying to dodge military justice, the judge's response in writing was one word: horse feathers. He even quoted Bob Dylan, "You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows." He could see exactly what this was: retaliation, punishing a man for his oath and calling it discipline. So let's do what we always do. Let's put this through the framework Except this time, the thing we're testing isn't a dissenter. It's the system. Remember criterion 6. Dissent has to be public, out loud, on the record, because silence reads as consent. Well, what is a grand jury? What is a courtroom if not the machinery that forces things into the open? The whole power of these checks is that they drag the government's case into the daylight and make it show its work. A prosecutor can't just decide. He has to convince citizens. A secretary can't just punish. He has to answer to a judge in writing, in public. That sunlight is the entire point. It's criterion 6, built into the architecture of the country. And think back to episode 1, to Socrates, and to the idea that the real danger to a free people isn't disagreement, it's thoughtlessness going along. These checks are how a republic forces itself to think. They are a deliberate speed bump against the easy slide from the president said so to then it must be lawful. A grand jury thinks. A judge thinks and writes it down and signs his name. That act of being made to stop and reason in the open, that civic virtue turned into a procedure. Now, I promised you every week and every day that I'd be straight, and I'm not going to hand you a fairy tale where the system swoops in and everything's fine, because 3 things are true at the same time, and you deserve all 3. First, it isn't over. The government didn't accept those rulings. They appealed Kelly's case up to a higher court. This spring, that appeals court heard arguments, and here's the encouraging part. A 3-judge panel, including another judge appointed by a Republican president, spent an hour and a half taking the government's argument apart. One judge pointed out that refusing an illegal order is something taught at Annapolis, the Naval Academy, to everyone who trains there. Another said simply, these are people who served their country. Many of them put their lives on the line. But as I record this, that court has not handed down its final ruling. The check is holding. It has not finished holding. There's a difference, and I won't paper over it. Second, the system did not hold by itself. This is the part I want you to take home and take away with you as you're sleeping tonight. None of this was automatic. The grand jury held because citizens showed up and did the hard lifting. The court held because, as a judge had the nerves to cross the most powerful people in the country, and because lawyers did the work, and because Mark Kelly, a guy who could have quietly retired and kept his head down, said in his words that after 25 years in the Navy, he'd given too much to this country to be silenced. And he didn't back down. The Constitution isn't just paper, y'all. People are what make it hold. Every single time. And we know this. And third, even when you win, it costs. These folks set up legal defense funds. One of them, as we talked about last week, ended up under round-the-clock protection. They'll spend years and fortunes being right. Sometimes the process itself is the punishment, and that's by design, because if making you fight is exhausting enough, the next person just stays quiet. So no, I'm not going to stand here and tell you to relax because the system works. The system works when we work it. That's the difference between a republic that holds and one that only used to. That's the whole lesson. Now, let's bring it back to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Bring it home. So I'm going to bring this all the way home to Hardin County District 3 and to the three words I keep coming back to: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Because every time we just talked and everything we just talked about, what we're really talking about is about those three things, and so is the office that I'm running for. Start with liberty. The First Amendment that protected Mark Kelly's voice is the exact same First Amendment that lets you walk into a fiscal court meeting and tell your county government it's wrong. Same Constitution. But here's the sobering part, and it's why I'm running. At the national level, when power overreached, there was a federal judge down the hall to put a stop to it. In that county meeting room, there's no judge waiting to save you. The check is the open meeting. The check is the public record. The check is whether there's a magistrate on that bench willing to ask the question out loud and put it on the record. At the local level, we are the system that has to hold. There's no one else coming. Then, life. I'll be honest, life is not an abstraction to a corpsman, to a hospital corpsman. I spent a career with people's lives in my hands. And y'all, protecting life on the battlefield with the Marines, on ships at sea, far, far away from emergency medical services off of the ship. Now, having someone's life in your hands means everything, and that is a serious burden to carry, but it's worth it. Now, here today, I'm asking you to be willing to allow me to represent you and your life's work so that you have the public services, roads, water, emergency services, the unglamorous county work that's actually about keeping people safe and alive. It is the first duty of any government, from the Constitution on down to the courthouse, is to protect the life and the safety of the people it serves. And ours, yours, is to hold it to that. And the pursuit of happiness. That's self-government itself. That's the radical idea that ordinary people, a grand jury of citizens, a county full of neighbors, they get to steer their own lives and their own community. You can't pursue much of anything if you're too afraid to speak, or the people deciding your county's business would rather that you didn't ask. A free people pursuing a good life, that requires a government that can be questioned and that answers. Now, I took an oath to defend that Constitution. I went to war for it. I came home, and the oath didn't expire. It just changed uniforms. Running for magistrate for me is the same promise in a smaller room. Support and defend. Tell the truth. Listen to criticism. And never treat a citizen's hard question as an act of disloyalty. Because the system only holds when somebody's willing to do it. I'm asking District 3 to let me be one of the people who holds it here. And here is where we must hold. It's where we must make our stand.
Built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah.
Because y'all, if we can't hold it here, we can't hold it in the national arena. So next time, the hardest episode of all, we've watched dissent from the Senate floor and the federal courts. People with titles, people with protections. Next, we go to the streets of an American city, to ordinary people with no title and no security detail. And we ask what happened to them for the crime of watching their own government and writing it down. That's where the line between dissent and something else gets really hard and really important. Episode 4. Y'all be sure that you're here for that. Now, y'all, I am Spencer Keck, and this has been The Necessity of Dissent here on the Hillbilly Think Tank. The oath doesn't expire, y'all. Come to a fiscal court meeting. Bring your hardest questions. I'll be there with you, listening. And if you elect me in November, I'll answer it. Remember, we are all in this together. United we stand, divided we fall. We can dissent from each other's points of view. That does not mean we're divided. So as we remember everyone deployed, y'all, bless your corazón. I hope that you have an amazing weekend. And I hope you start it right tonight, y'all. All right. Quick check here. All right, what's up, said Spenty941. Well, I'll tell you what's up. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All right, Carpe Diem. Carpe Diem says, I must be talking about truth because it looks like you're being shadow banned. The algorithms love to keep people stupid. Keep going, sir. Thank you, Carpe Diem. All right, so I am running for magistrate. That's right. Magistrate in Hardin County, District 3. Thank you, sir. I will keep going, and we will keep on rocking in the free world, y'all. That's what it's all about. Let's all keep on keeping on.
Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah. Touch the green, green grass of home. And I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there, because we don't need a kingdom. We only need free air, and we don't seek a king, we seek the brotherhood of man, and we won't fight for bondage, as we need no king or woman. We will stand undivided, because we will raise the fallen. I need to hear a hallelujah as we tear down the wall in the divide between heaven and earth, as tears turn to mirth, as we walk through the valley of death.
Exercising oversight responsibility over the military, this court will not be the first to do so. He was extremely skeptical of getting ahead of the Supreme Court, creating some precedent here, but at this point, this judge is siding with Senator Kelly in this civil lawsuit.
Some breaking news now. A judge has just blocked Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth from taking action against Democratic Senator Mark Kelly's rank and pay over his appearance in a video urging the military.
Standing for life, liberty, and standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of